Get an electrician in your home for free. FHFirm.com.
Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air. President Trump doubling down his new warning just a short time ago, saying, let's see what North Korea does with Guam.
He does something in Guam, it will be an event the likes of which nobody's seen before.
Our team standing by in the region tonight. Also, severe storms hitting at this hour from Chicago to Oklahoma City and moving east. And the new tropical systems developing right now in the Atlantic. All eyes tonight on the U.S. coastline. The college student and the fraternity members who waited nearly 12 hours to call for help. He did not survive, and tonight here, the new development. The hit and run, the witness who saw it, and then the driver leaving the scene. You'll see what happens when he follows. And the very personal news tonight from Jimmy Kimmel about his baby son.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Thursday night. And we begin with President Trump and his message for North Korea, telling reporters today that his first warning of fire and fury perhaps was not tough enough. The president saying today, let's see what North Korea does with Guam, and said if they take any action, the response will be, quote, an event the likes of which nobody has seen before. ABC senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega leading us off.
President Trump tonight with a new warning for North Korea if they follow through on that threat against Guam.
Let's see what he does with Guam. He does something in Guam, it will be an event the likes of which nobody's seen before. What will happen in North Korea? He will see. It's not a dare. It's a statement. He's not going to go around threatening Guam, and he's not going to threaten the United States, and he's not going to threaten Japan, and he's not going to threaten South Korea.
The president delivering those tough words at his Bedminster Golf Club. And on the front steps of the clubhouse with the vice president by his side, he didn't hesitate to also take on Pyongyang, calling his fire and fury statement nonsense.
Well, I don't think they mean that, and I think it's the first time they've heard it like they heard it. And frankly, the people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. It's about time that somebody stuck up for the people of this country and for the people of other countries. So, if anything, maybe that statement wasn't tough enough.
He is not backing down, but he's also not telegraphing what comes next. As for a preemptive strike,
we don't talk about that. I never do.
As for negotiations,
sure, we'll always consider negotiations, but
this is President Trump's first real test over nuclear weapons. And in his first interview after the inauguration, the president told David he was confident he would do the right thing.
Let me ask you, right after the oath of office, they give you the nuclear codes, the biscuit.
Right.
How somber?
Somber. Very somber.
Sobering moment?
When they explain what it represents and the kind of destruction that you're talking about, it is a very sobering moment. Yes, it's very, very, very scary in a sense.
Does it keep you up at night?
No, but it's confidence that I'll do the right thing and the right job. But it's a very, very scary thing.
In North Korea, marching in the street, the country rallying as it issued that threat to strike the U.S. territory of Guam. The president lobbed one more shot before walking off.
And I will tell you this, North Korea better get their act together or they're going to be in trouble like few nations ever have been in trouble in this world, okay?
And Cecilia Vega with us live tonight from Bedminster. Amid all of these escalating war of words over North Korea, Cecilia, the president also weighed in with something else about nuclear weapons today.
Yeah, David, late today he was asked about his priorities in terms of nuclear weapons, and he said, quote, I would like to denuke the world, and that nuclear weapons are our greatest threat worldwide. But he also said that among the first orders of business that he gave his generals when he took office, David, was to make America's nuclear arsenal, quote, the biggest and finest in the world.
Cecilia Vega leading us off. Cecilia, thank you. And you heard Cecilia report there on the very specific threat North Korea has now made to strike near Guam by the middle of this month. The Homeland Security chief for Guam tonight saying they would have just 14 minutes of warning before missiles would land. ABC's Jim Avila is in Seoul, South Korea for us tonight.
All eyes on Guam tonight, the closest and most vulnerable to attack U.S. territory. And now, after that highly specific threat, the North Koreans claiming in days they'll have a plan to launch 4 missiles into the ocean just 20 miles from the island. A launch that would put those missiles on American soil in 14 minutes.
They would fly this missile towards Guam, but over Japan, over highly populated parts of Japan, which will be very, very provocative.
The island home to 160,000 American civilians and 7,000 U.S. forces on 2 U.S. military bases, making it a key launching point for any potential military strike. B-1 bombers regularly take off on practice runs. Tonight, U.S. officials say there's no visible military escalation on either side in response to the heated rhetoric. But for the U.S. and allies, there are several lines of defense at the ready. Here in neighboring South Korea, nearly 30,000 U.S. troops. These Patriot missiles ready to shoot down any short-range missiles. The U.S. could try to stop a longer-range missile, like the kind North Korea could launch toward Guam, from one of several U.S. Navy ships in the region. The last line of defense, the THAAD anti-missile defense system. In tests, it has a 100% success rate, but it has never been tested with 4 missiles at once. A preemptive strike could be on the table in the next 6 to 12 months if sanctions do not work, and if Kim Jong-un continues to make progress on a nuclear-tipped missile, a senior official tells ABC News. But any military retaliation from North Korea could be catastrophic. Millions of civilians in Seoul, just 35 miles from the border, could be targeted by North Korea's artillery, and more than 80,000 U.S. troops in the region could also be in the crosshairs.
A preemptive attack would no doubt lead to a broader war, which will have to be the last resort because the human toll will be horrific.
And Jim Avila joins us now from Seoul, South Korea. And Jim, they warned today of strong and resolute retaliation for any attack against them or the U.S. The people of South Korea watching this war of words very closely?
David, they certainly are. The people here say they're immune nearly to all the things that they hear from the North because they hear it so often, the flamboyant language. But what's bothering them this time, which makes it even more risky, they believe, is that they're hearing it from the United States. Almost everybody on the street you talk to can recite Donald Trump's words, fire and fury, and it worries them. David?
Jim Avila tonight reporting from Seoul. Jim, thank you. And in the middle of the rising tensions with North Korea, President Trump is now lashing out at one of the most powerful Republicans in Washington, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. It comes after what McConnell said. After the failure to repeal and replace Obamacare, McConnell said that the president was new to this line of work and that his expectations were excessive. The president did not like that, and ABC's Mary Bruce tonight.
The blame game started when Mitch McConnell said this about the president.
Our new president had, of course, not been in this line of work before, and I think had excessive expectations.
For more than 24 hours, the president has been firing back, today delivering this salvo.
I've been hearing repeal and replace now for 7 years. All I hear is repeal and replace. And then I get there and I said, where's the bill? I want to sign it first day. And they don't have it.
With Republicans in control of Congress and the White House, there's nothing holding them back except themselves. Frustrated and fuming, the president with a single demand.
Mitch, get to work and let's get it done. They should have had this last one done. They lost by 1 vote. For a thing like that to happen is a disgrace. And frankly, it shouldn't have happened.
The president is in the midst of what he calls a 17-day working vacation.
Everyone having a good time?
Spotted here chatting with wedding guests at his New Jersey golf club. But even amid escalating tensions with North Korea, he's been firing shots at the Senate Republican leader. Going after McConnell is a risky political gamble, and tonight many top Republicans are siding with him, saying the president must take responsibility too.
I think the president can't disassociate himself from this. He's part of the leadership team. He's not an observer sitting up in the stands. He's on the field. It was a collective failure.
But the president was asked today if he thinks McConnell should step down.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he doesn't get repeal and replace done, and if he doesn't get taxes done, meaning cuts and reform, and if he doesn't get a very easy one to get done, infrastructure, if he doesn't get them done, then you can ask me that question.
To be continued on that front. Mary Bruce joins us from Capitol Hill tonight. And Mary, the president was also asked about what you reported on last night here, that FBI raid in the early morning hours, late July, at the home of his former campaign chair, Paul Manafort. Here's what the president said about that.
I thought it was a very, very strong signal or whatever. I know Mr. Manafort. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, but I know him. He was with the campaign, as you know, for a very short period of time, relatively short period of time, but I've always known him to be a good man. I thought it was a very, they do that very seldom. So I was surprised to see it. I was very, very surprised to see it. We haven't really been involved.
Mary, the president saying he was very surprised to see it. The FBI had to obtain a warrant to carry out that search?
And David, to obtain that warrant, you have to show probable cause to believe a crime was committed. A judge has to sign off on this. Now, does this mean that a crime was committed? No, but it shows that investigators believed there's more evidence here and that they needed this raid to get it. David?
Mary Bruce with us from Capitol Hill again tonight. Mary, thank you. We do have one more note on President Trump tonight, who made a lot of news while taking questions late today. One answer involving Vladimir Putin. The president offered his thanks to Vladimir Putin after Russia's decision to throw out U.S. diplomats in Moscow, slashing personnel by 755 people. It was Putin's response to sanctions supported by Republicans and Democrats in Congress after Russian meddling in the U.S. election. They sent that bill to the president's desk. President Trump now saying, I want to thank him because we're trying to cut down on payroll as far as I'm concerned, and I'm very thankful, adding there's no real reason for them to go back. We will save a lot of money. We turn next year tonight to a mystery involving several U.S. officials in Cuba, several suffering symptoms that the State Department has not elaborated on, but those symptoms now being blamed on a secret sonic device. Tonight, Cuba denying any involvement. The FBI now on the case, and ABC's Victor Oquendo from Miami.
Tonight, a mystery unfolding in Cuba. American officials in Cuba suddenly falling ill.
Our Americans were not safe. They were not secure.
The State Department and FBI not revealing what made them sick or their symptoms, but sources tell ABC News that starting in the fall of 2016, it appears some officials were exposed to a sonic device that caused hearing problems and other physical symptoms. This all unfolding just a few months after President Obama made that historic visit to Cuba, reestablishing diplomatic relations.
So why now?
The time is right. Obviously, our intention has always been to get a ball rolling, knowing that change wasn't going to happen overnight.
But this latest incident triggering retaliation, the U.S. expelling 2 Cuban diplomats despite not knowing who exactly is to blame.
We can't blame any one individual or a country at this point yet.
So let's bring Victor Oquendo in with us live from Miami tonight. And Victor, what are Cuban officials saying tonight?
David, the Cuban government is denying any involvement here, but just today, Canada's government confirming that their personnel in Havana are also showing similar symptoms. David?
A lot more questions to come on this front. Victor, thank you. In the meantime, next to a bombshell accusation at a hearing today from members of a Penn State. They are accused in the death of Tim Piazza during an alcohol-fueled party at the fraternity house. In court today, a detective testifying that one of the accused deleted security camera footage that might have provided crucial evidence in this case. And again tonight, ABC's Gio Benitez.
Those 16 fraternity brothers filed into a Pennsylvania court today, a prosecutor arguing they should all stand trial for the alcohol-fueled death of 19-year-old pledge Tim Piazza.
We have a friend who is unconscious, hasn't moved, probably need an ambulance.
That 911 call not made until 12 hours after Piazza fell headfirst down a flight of stairs after taking part in an alleged hazing ritual called the Gauntlet.
They had to go from station to station and chug alcohol.
But today, a courtroom bombshell, a detective testifying that footage of Piazza during the Gauntlet was purposely deleted 2 days after his death.
That makes us really wonder what could have possibly been on this tape that's worse than what was left behind.
Not deleted, hours of footage showing Piazza in agony, dying from brain injuries, and texts from some brothers saying he drank because we hazed him, and I think we are expletive, as in I think we are in trouble. Defense attorneys arguing the tragedy is not a crime. And David, investigators are still trying to figure out if they can recover that missing video, but the family attorney says this could lead to more indictments and more charges. David?
Gio Benitez on this case from the start. Thank you, Gio. We turn next year. The first hurricane of the season downgraded tonight. Franklin making landfall near Veracruz with 85-mile-an-hour winds, then moving across Mexico. We are also watching tonight 2 tropical systems. They could affect the U.S. coastline. In this country right now, severe storms in the plains moving east, hail in Wisconsin, and in Kansas, windshields damaged. It's all moving eastward. Rob Marciano is tracking it all.